In a year of turbulence and change for the competition, this year has seen the UK national final postponed by 5 months and moved completely online, with only automatic racing taking place in person. Welcome to Off the Track. My name is Peter Russell. Today I'm joined by Riley McGlue.
Hello.
And from the UK, George Stoner.
Hi.
And Laurence Vines.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast. So this year we had the UK national final, which was held virtually. Unfortunately, not every team who qualified was able to take part, but I believe this was only a small amount of teams. So congratulations to Britannia Red from Robert May's schools, the national champions 2 years in a row. And in second place, we had Electron from St Olave's Grammar School. In third place, Eclipse from Queen Elizabeth's Grammar School as well. So all three of those teams will be progressing to the World Final. Joining them at the World Finals will also be IQ from North London Collegiate, who were the development class national champions. In second place in the development class was Nova Racing from Kimbolton School. And in third place was Dynamic Racing from Monifeith High School. The Scottish champions were Genesis from Linlithgow Academy, and the Welsh champions Nemesis Inferno from Penn Coed Comprehensive School. And the Scottish and Welsh champions will also be joining the others at the World Finals. And the award winners, so best engineered in the professional class was Britannia Red. In the development class, Nova Racing was best engineered. The best portfolio in the professional class was Genesis, and in the development class was Dynamic Racing. The fastest car in the professional class, with a time of 1.103 seconds, was Aquila Racing, and in the development class was IQ with a time of 1.239 seconds. So, George, you were judging the engineering portfolios, I believe. So what was it like to judge, especially in this virtual national final?
Yeah, so it was really interesting this year. So I haven't had that much experience judging. I judged at one regional finals in person earlier in the year. But it was interesting to be sent 16 portfolios for the design and engineering professional class to go through and mark. The way we did it this year was rather than the normal sort of in-person way we do it, where three judges mark the teams and then sort of come together on a consensus to mark. What we did this year was we all marked individually, and then the scores were averaged. And we made sure that we had some conference calls to ensure that we were going in roughly the same direction as each other. But we had a bit more freedom to mark how we wanted to individually. I think another interesting thing about this was how much time we had to mark. So I haven't had that much to do recently, so I had many hours to sift through the portfolios and go into a lot of detail, and especially a level of detail that at the regional finals when I was marking, certainly just didn't have the time to do. So I think in many ways the quality of marking of engineering portfolios was as high as it could be. I think the only thing we missed out really was those conversations with the teams to just sort of discuss some of their ideas a bit further, making sure that they understand the concepts that they're putting forward in their portfolios.
Do you think because you had a longer time to look through the portfolios that you marked a bit harsher than you would have if you were judging an in-person event?
I'm not sure. I think it was probably not much of a change between how I would have marked in person or against them. Maybe sometimes I might have, having had a conversation with a team, I might have suddenly realised they deserve a few more marks in this area. But I think generally it's pretty consistent. And I think the most important thing, though, is overall that teams are marked fairly.
I think the accuracy of the scrutineering also probably benefited from the virtual format, because cars available to scrutineer for, not the first day of the competition having to be done overnight with all of the judges staying up to do that. I think there are a lot less mistakes. And there was also the chance for us to record some data from the cars to be used for analysis on the live stream.
So it sounds like it was a lot fairer, the competition overall. Laurence, you were at the Denford factory for this event. What was that like, being at an event with no competitors?
I mean, it was definitely quite strange not having all the teams there in person. And like George mentioned, there were some points like definitely scrutineering the cars. So this is actually in advance, where it would have been nice to talk to the teams in person to see what they're actually intending to do. As far as possible, it was very smoothly managed, and we didn't have any crises. So that was good. And I think it definitely opens the door for more virtual events.
Absolutely. So we had a few interesting designs. One that caught my eye was Electrons, who placed second. I noticed it was very simple, but they managed to actually tie second fastest. George, do you know why? How is that the case? How can they have such a simple design, yet, have such a fast car?
I'm not entirely sure, but they certainly had a very high quality engineering portfolio. They thought through their designs. I think what they came up with a car that generally wasn't too complicated. It was a solid design that was dependable, and I think that probably helps when you've only got 2 races. You haven't got much of a chance for those averages to slowly figure out whose car is the fastest over different, maybe some dodgy canisters. So they certainly went with a good approach for building a solid, dependable design.
I don't know what the parameter is on canister weights for national finals usually, but for the event they weighed them to world final standards, which is, I think, all between 0.04 of a gram.
Riley, you were watching on here from Australia. Was there anything that caught your eye in terms of designs?
In terms of car designs, to me it was really interesting seeing how a lot of national teams adapted to the new rules since the world competition, like the new rear wingspan. And yeah, so there were a lot of designs based off teams from last year's Worlds, like Evolve. I noticed a few designs were fairly similar. But no, other than Electron having a fairly simple design and getting a really fast time, nothing really stood out to me, to be honest.
And talking about fast times, we saw the leaderboard being very, very tight and close at the top. Is that something that we usually see at a UK national final?
I don't think as tight as that is common. I mean, you'll usually get a few teams that are sort of vying it out for sort of the top place, but for 5 teams to be within 0.007 of a second is quite extraordinary in many ways, especially since each car only had 2 races each, or each car only raced once because they brought 2 cars. So yeah, it was an interesting result, but it seemed like there was a solid group of cars that seemed to have good performance.
And George, do you think that performance was based off like how well the cars were manufactured or designed? Like, do you think there was a mix among that top 5, or was there a key quality that you saw?
I mean, certainly among the teams that placed well in the racing, they generally were very well designed in their portfolio. You could see that they had thought out designs. In terms of the manufacturing, I think I'll pass that over to Laurence, as he actually got to see the cars in person.
Yeah, so I think the top band of cars had the highest build quality this year. And that is obviously always a really important factor in having a fast car. But I would say one of the standards that has fallen this year, obviously with teams not necessarily being able to go into their schools or wherever they go to manufacture their cars as much, I think that's been a problem for them. Another factor I'd say that possibly made a small difference in us having such a tight field at the top was that all of the racing took place in a pretty compact time slot. So in terms of kind of conditions outside the building that would heat up or whatever, we were operating within a small window with less teams and also less racing.
And there were a lot of DNFs as well. Why was that the case, Laurence?
So I think that comes back to the build quality. I mean, usually the teams would or most of them would kind of carry their car as if it was a precious gem or something to the competition. Whereas this year they've all had to mail them off. So there was definitely the possibility for the postal service not to treat them with as much care as the teams might. And just as I said before, teams' ability to manufacture and spend time together working on their cars has definitely been reduced.
Just out of interest, do you know if any cars arrived broken?
Only one that I'm aware of. That was a dev car, and that's I think that would have been broken in its first race anyway. They had a rear wing support that was 3D printed that might have been less than a mil. I can't believe they actually managed to print it. So one of the cars survived, but
Wow.
the other arrived broken.
And something else I noticed is, someone who was relying on the live stream a lot was that, well, first of all, the live stream quality was very high. I think just as well as a World Finals live stream, even maybe a bit higher, but it had the use of someone doing analysis on the engineering designs, Sophie Harker, which I found quite helpful. What did you guys think of the live stream quality?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was comparing it to watching an event normally from the live stream, I thought it was much more interesting in many ways because the whole thing was based around the live stream. It wasn't based around those attending the live event, so they managed to put more effort into sort of the analysis, as you said. That was really helpful, seeing people talking about the cars, because I think usually you get your crofty Tom Deacon figure who's a great commentator and can talk all day and ask good questions to the teams, but doesn't have that engineering knowledge to sort of go into the design of the cars. So I think that analysis from Sophie Harker was really, really helpful this year.
And we saw the teams being interviewed via Zoom. Did that run quite smoothly, Laurence? You were coordinating all of the Zoom calls, I hear?
Yeah. Well, I think managing 150 kids by Zoom is definitely easier than in person. It still had its challenges, but we were able to get all of the teams in separate rooms so that then they could be summoned up to be interviewed before and after each of their races. And while you'd usually have a team being interviewed before their race anyway, having them kind of on screen getting their reaction to the racing, I think was quite good because you'd usually not really get that as much, and you'd have the race and then they'd be off. So I definitely think that's a positive of virtual nationals. So something else new for the 2020 UK National Finals was that they split the track up into two sectors. So they'd usually place the sector gate halfway down the track, but for this event they put it 6 meters down the track. So this first section was the launch phase, where the car reaches its top speed from launch, and the last 14 meters was the cruise phase. So we got the results for the launch phase in seconds, and the cruise phase as an average speed in meters per second. I personally thought this was really good. It's another insight that you get into the performance of the relative cars, and where one might be good at the launch, another might make time up in the cruise phase. Although in future, what I'd really like to see is to get a top speed at the end of that launch phase, so you can actually see how well they maintain the speed that they achieve.
Absolutely. Yeah, the quality was really high with the live stream. So yeah, great job for everyone at F1 in Schools UK. That was, a really, really great job. And again, still that uncertainty surrounding the World Final. There was no announcement at the UK National Finals, unfortunately, but Andrew Denford did mention that there could be a possibility that an event could be held in early 2021, and that is under consideration. So yeah, that kind of leaves the teams in limbo, and yeah, it's going to give them considerable amount of time between the Nationals event and the World Finals.
I just wanted to ask Riley whether, as a current competitor, what he thought of the teams he saw. Anything stand out anything you might sort of, any ideas you might borrow, anything you're worried about? Or you're not worried. You've got worlds sorted.
No, so like definitely worried. There's a very, very strong like group of teams that are coming from the UK this year. Definitely some fairly quick car times, especially given the difference in climates. Yeah, there was a lot to think about. But yeah, don't want to reveal too much. So.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So yeah, thanks for joining us for this review of the 2020 UK National Finals, which were held virtually this year. Well, thanks for listening to Off the Track. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate the show 5 stars on your podcast app, because Michael says that helps a lot. I don't know what it actually does, but just do it anyway, because Michael says so. Make sure to follow us on Instagram as well, at Off the Track Podcast, and visit us at offthetrack.net, where we will be publishing an article on this year's UK National Final, and more articles in the future. So stay tuned to our website for that. But from all of us here at Off the Track, it's goodbye for now.